Share the screen. Right. So welcome back to class. Today's topic is about still Express in the middleware. Yesterday you actually used some middleware, but you had no idea what they are. You see a bunch of code in the app.js file, right? So it say use something, but you have no idea what they do. So today we will learn the middlewares, and we will like have a rough idea what they do in the app.js. Okay, and here what we learned yesterday Express, and here's some recap. Can someone tell me what's the MVC and what it does? Let's see. I have a couple of people doesn't have camera on, and let's see who they are. Oh, I saw yours now. Bình. Hello, Bình. You're in the middle of my list. So, Bình, can you tell me what's MVC and what it does?
Okay, so MVC is a pattern. It stands for model, views, and control. So control is like the user, a client. They control what they want to see, and the model will handle the tasks like function or something, and the view will show that on the client side, so that the user can see it. Yeah.
Kind of, but I would like to correct it a little bit. The model, obviously, they are objects, but they handle the task which is very closely to your database, your data. It doesn't. It's not just function to do everything. Just function to handle the task that's very close to your data, right?
Okay.
Cool. Just correct it a little bit. And C is not control; it's controllers. Yes, and what you said is right. And MVC is that correct? Good.
Okay.
Thank you. And today, I don't know why you answer it so quickly. It's weird. Yesterday, like take a couple of seconds or 1 minute to answer. All right. Thank you, Bin. And what next question was the handlebars and what is the I would like to ask. There's a couple of people here who had the UI is very bad, which I don't really like. All right. Bảo, what is handlebars? I'm not enjoying it today. Bảo,
Yes.
what is handlebars?
I think it's a template to output the HTML to the Node.js.
Kind of. But what problems does it solve?
Yes.
What does it solve? Like what does it do? Actually, like can we not just use HTML and CSS? We
Um,
can, yeah. But what is so special about handlebars?
I just remember that it is a template, so it's output the HTML. That's what I know from yesterday.
Yeah, okay. Handlebar has some special features, like for example, it can render dynamic content, right? You can put in conditionals in there. You can run a for loop inside your handlebars, which you cannot do that in HTML, right? Basically, that's the difference between handlebars and normal HTML. It's more powerful. Okay, and what is Express and what is it good for? Can just concentrate. Can what is Express? Unmute yourself. Unmute.
Forgot to.
Okay.
I know yesterday it read a application. We use it to call back a function. Right? Sorry.
Something. It's a framework, right? It's a framework, and it's so light. It's not really light, but it's one of the oldest framework, and it's very minimal. To make a lot of middleware. I understand, yes, exactly. Especially about middleware, and it has the ability to use a lot of middlewares, and that's why we can say it can integrate a lot of plugins and other libraries into Express, right? So by using middlewares, and today we will learn how it can do it like that, right? So there's some funny questions. How many types of ware are there in your computers? You can chat. How many types? 2, 3. Yeah. Don't cheat, man. Don't cheat. 2? Only 2? So what are they, Juris?
Hardware, software.
Hardware, software. Actually,
That
there's
what you
one
mean?
more.
Is that the question?
Yeah, that's the question. But there's one more that's stand between the hardware and software. That's called firmware. There's another thing called firmware. Okay, and there are also badwares, and there are malwares, spyware, ransomware, vaporware. You should stay away from these wares, right? It's funny job. But we also have the best ware now. It's called middleware. And today we will learn middleware. It's the best ware in Express. This is why I want to say something, but I don't know. Okay, what is middleware here? It's just a bunch of like functions that will stay in between our request and response cycle. That's what it's short. So middleware stay in between request and response cycle, and it's just a bunch of functions that will be executed during the process, right? So it's a function, but it has 3 parameters. As you can see here, it has the request, response, also the next function here. The next function is that after you've done something, you just call the next function like, hey, your turn, something like that. It's very simple. And middleware, you can think of it like a chain, right? It's a chain, and you have a very little piece here in a chain. Is one function, another function, another function. So if you, function 1 finish something, it will say next. Means pass everything to the next in line, the second piece here, and that's called middleware. It's very simple. The concept is very simple to use, but it's very powerful. You can like use it in a lot of situations, right? So basically, it's another funny picture. This is a middleware, right? It's a chain. This guy will pass the buckets to the following guys, and until you reach the end of your code, of your logic. But what if the guy in the middle he decides to use a bucket to use all the water in the buckets, or he lose the buckets? So application will fail, right? So it's very powerful, but you have to pay attention on designing those functions, defining those functions, right? And middleware can do the following things, like it can execute any code. So basically, they are just functions, so you can execute any code. And you can also modify or make changes to your request and response objects. For example, we will talk about it later. For example, I don't want to switch the screen, but your request object, you can attack or you can add more properties to your request objects during the middleware. So the next middleware can have access to the request object and also the additional properties in there. For example, you can have request.query.qua equal something, and the next middleware will have access to request.query.qua, for example. And also any middleware, any function during the inside the middleware chain, right? It can end the request response cycle. For example, yesterday we have a function called get weather and get coordinates, right? We also pass the response the response object to that function, and that function can call response.render anytime it wants, right? So it ends the request and response cycle right there. So it's kind of like a middleware. And it can call the next middleware in a function in the stack anytime it finishes the job. So using the next, yesterday our function didn't have the next. So today we will learn how to use it. So you can call the next middleware function. It's like, okay, I'm done. Next, your turn, something like that. It's very easy to understand, but it's hard to use sometimes. Right. So because of that, next, you need to call next all the time. You remember how to call it to execute the next function. Else, like your application will like freeze and it will be a timeout. There will be a timeout during the request. Right? If you don't call the next, it will like stop right there. It will stop executing. So you need to call next inside your middleware. Okay, here's how the middleware looks like. Remember, inside you have to use used in order to use it, but basically just a function. The whole thing here is just a function, right? You missed one more. Okay, okay. The whole thing here is a function. It has three. It has access to three objects, two objects and one function. Request object, response object, and the next function. And inside that, you can do anything here. And after you finish, you call next. To skip this one, go to the next one. And this is how it looks more realistic. So basically, this is you want to, every time you receive a request, you want to say you want to bring out
Can you just build this real quickly?
Build this together. Okay. Let me go up. Let's go to Emily example. For example, Emily. All right. What if I have app here? Okay. So these are also middleware. As you can see here in the app.js, these app.use, they are all middlewares. You can also do something like this, app.use. And inside here is a function, right? It's a function, and the function has three objects: request, response, and next. Okay, three object, and then in here you can do console log. Let's say what do you want? Time, daytime now. Okay, time is, then you plus daytime.now. Right, then you call next. Right.
Yeah, just to recap, we're trying to give you an example of what middleware is. So you can, we're just writing this middleware into Emily's app to see what this does, how it affects the app.
Sorry, what did you say?
Sorry, I was just trying to give an example of like middleware is this complicated sounding concept, but it's actually just a function that we can define just like this. So this is what Claude just wrote is a express middleware. If you look above, like all these things like logger dev, express JSON, express URL, those are all middlewares that look basically like they just, I mean, they're more complicated, but they essentially just do what we did in lines 32 to 35.
Okay, now we see we stop server, run again, and then every time I say for example I set this page, I expect to see a console log of the which has the time, and this is it. Time is something, and you have to stringify it, but I forgot. Okay, so that's how you have a kind of like application level middleware. And what's application level middleware? You will see it in the next slide. So this recap, this is just a function, and then you can put it function anywhere, right? It can do anything.
Hey, what happens if you don't call next? Can you show them that?
I think it's next. Okay, next here. If without the next, you will not see it. You will not see the page here. Let's see. Let's go back to your code. And what if I forgot the next line here? Let's see what happened. To make sure, I have to start the server again and hit the page again. It keep loading, right? Until it's timeout. Like you have to wait 30 seconds and it will be timeout. Why is that? Because it was stuck here forever. You didn't call next, and it will be stuck here. After 30 seconds, our browser will say, okay, there's something wrong or timeout. And that's why remember to have next in your middleware on always, right? I have to change back so Emily will not scold me. All right, cool. Back. That's an example of middlewares here. We have here, right? Next is a, cannot say, right? We have 5 types of middleware. What I did there is a application level middleware. It basically used in the app. Right after the app use something, it's an application middleware. Basically, it will listen to any request and it will do something and call the next stack. Also, we also have something called router level middleware, which we will dive into in the next slide. But basically, it does not run on app.use, but it is router.use. So it's only run inside the router. That's router level middleware is small. It's like a lower level. And we also have the error handling middleware. Basically, I used to use a middleware to handle all type errors. And this one we will learn in week 10 when we refactor our code, and then we will implement a very cool feature called error handling middleware. So basically, we'll handle all the async errors during the inside our app. Okay. Also, we have built-in middleware. They are on, for example, if you look at the code here, Express already have some very big, cool built-in middleware. So here, you can also terminate and send a response directly. Yes, cancel on the right subject. Yes. So let's go back to the. Let me finish this. So these are cookie parser, cookie parser. They are all built-in middleware, belong to Express. So it can do something. For example, let's take an example of this JSON and URL encoder. Basically, it will take a look at your request object, and it will find the JSON body. It will like pass everything into your object for you. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do JSON no respond or request something. Request.body.json function. It will do it for you. Also, the URL encoding, the cookie parser, they are all built-in middleware. Okay. And Charles said you can optionally terminate and send a response during the middleware during the chain, inside the chain, anywhere, anytime you want. Just call respond.render or respond.send, something like that. It will terminate the whole chain and it's finish the chain, right? And go back to here. And we also have the last one, the third-party middleware. Basically, there are just library that we import it from npm.js.com. We use the middleware inside our app. For example, later we will use the middleware called Motor. A library called Motor is basically a middleware to handle the file uploads first. And I talk about router level middleware. What exactly is router? We used it yesterday, but we didn't know what it is, right? So router is an Express built-in middleware as well. It helps us organize all the routes together. So basically, we can group up the routes, and we can also specify which routes we use which middleware, or which group routes we use which middleware. For example, if you look at the code here, you will see here's a router, right? Where is it? Where is it? Okay, here is router. So it will use router is just another like middleware. This when you slot only slot, you will see a router index router, and what index router is defined inside the router in the slot index. And if you go to this file here, you see the router is this kind of like a method or an object inside the express itself. So router, instead of doing app.get, yesterday someone asked me about this when he was like following the lab and the express generator at the same time. That's a little bit different. In the lab, I use app.get, but in the generator, they use router.get. The difference is app.get is application level, and router.get is like a router level. And inside here, you can split it into groups. You split on your routes into groups. For example, you have two groups. The only one slash, and another one is let me see, slash users. So if you only have one slash, this means your root route, right? Inside the root route, you can have, for example, localhost, and then 5000, and then you slash this is your root route, the index route here. You have weather, but if you have user here, for example here, user here, right? It's a router. Inside the user here, let's see what is there. User here, you also have a like it's a index page, index route for the router, the users. So basically, it will show this message respond with resource. Let's see it, right? Let's see it. Respond with a resource. Index here is network. Yeah, behind the scene, we do something like that. So there's something magical. Expect we do it for us. We start the server. We go to user. You will see what? I think user without S. I think no. Respond with a resource. Did I change something? Inside your app, you have user, and then why is it 404? Why is it 404? You need to look at this. So anything that follow this is 404, and users slash users. I'm stuck here. All right. So here, actually, the generator is so like there's a bug in the generator itself. It doesn't. So it behaves exactly the same as how our React router does, right? So it will check if else. Same thing. So something wrong in the express generator itself. So you have to move this user router above index router, okay, in order to for you to access the user here. Right. That's how the router behave. So instead of putting every route inside your app.js, you can now split the routes into groups and then put them in different files, different routes. Okay, that's enough for a router. You have to like spend some time to practice with it in order to get familiar with the router. It's very simple. Just pay attention to the order of your route. Okay, and what's next? Okay, so here's a very good example of the middleware. We can use a middleware to protect our route as well. For example, I'm gonna do it. For example, if you go to this without middleware, right? Without middleware, if you go to a route that is expected to be protected, right? This route, we are supposed to not to be able to access this route because it's top secret, right? But without middleware, anyone can access to it. what if I have a middleware, something called requires login? It's a middleware. It's a function. After it finishes its function, it will execute the next function, which is the one that we want to render, right? So what is requires login here? What's inside it? There's some magic inside it. It's just a function, and this function has some additional logic to prevent unauthorized user. For example, if you take a look here, there's a disclaimer, please, this is not how a password is supposed to work, so please don't use it in your production code. And what it does here is like, it's just a function just like this, right? Same thing, just like this. But it's called next in the slide to skip to the next function in the slide. So basically,
just sorry, just jump in for a second. So with the router, you can actually give. So before we only had rec, res, next. So before the old syntax, if you go back 2 slides, you hit left twice. So JavaScript does a lot of weird things. But one thing is this thing will check. Yeah. So go. So this is the standard way that we just did, but you can actually give it another argument, and if it gets this additional argument here, the router is smart enough to realize, oh my gosh, I have 3 arguments now, not 2. And the second one, it expects to be a middleware to run before this route runs. That's all.
Okay. Answer to Daniel, if you don't use a password, what sensitive information would be protected? This is just an example, Daniel. In the future, like next week, we will learn how to do the authentication properly.
Yeah, you do actually, you do save the password, you do save the user and stuff, but you don't save it in a query string. So remember, the query string is just like question mark, password equals secret. You wouldn't do that. You would save the password somewhere else that you can't guess in the URL, because that's not very secure.
This one is just an example on how the middleware works. Okay, so you will check the password. If the password is correct, you're allowed to execute the next function, right here. But if the password is not correct or there's no password, you can stop the whole chain right away. For example, you can send a response right away here, right? That's very simple. It's not really simple, but it's kind of complicated at the same time. So, yeah.
And so before, like, yeah, there was a question about HTTP codes. Remember, 200 is good. So generally speaking, what we did before, when we do res.send, blah, 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 actually, Express will assume that we're sending a 200 because that's the OK response. 401 is a special one saying that, you know, this one, what Claude just pulled up. So we're going to tell the server, yeah, we're going 401. And to answer Jurgis's question before, yeah, this is how we terminate. This is how we break the chain. We don't call next, we call res.send.
Yep.
Claude, can you implement this into Emily's app?
Let me see. Go back. Where are we? All right. So we want to have something here. Let me do it in the code in this one as well. All right, here.
You need to do it on a route, actually. So maybe you go into users. Yeah.
User, all right. So assume that this route is protected, right? And we need a password in order to access this route. And the password is going to be 123. And here we will have a middleware. Let's say login require. I just say login. And let's define the function here. Function login. Inside the function, we will also have request, response, and next. We will look at the request object. If request object has a query, and inside that query has a key called, okay, here I have to clarify a little bit. There's always a query object inside our request object, right? So an empty object is true, it's truthful. So we don't have to do request of query along. We need to check request of query, for example, password or just PW. And then if request.query I think you can skip the whole thing here as well, but let's go with it. Query.pw equal to 123. It has to be a string because everything go inside the URL is string. So if you do, or you can do 2 equal here, and what you string is can be a number, but let's go with 3 equal. And if the password is correct, we call next. That means it will execute this function next. Okay. Else we will send something. For example, this one send forbidden. For example. Okay, forbidden, and let's try it. Without any password, it should be forbidden, right? And if we have a question mark and then we say password equal to 123, we should see what we expect to see. Respond with a resource, right? Cool. Is it clear? Is it like somehow confused?
Can you show one more time with the wrong password?
With the wrong password. Okay. 1235. Example. Still forbidden.
Nice.
Okay.
And so you can also, this is cool because you can also have multiple routes. So maybe you have like, many pages and only some of them require login, some of them don't. So you can just add one word to each of them now. This is a lot easier, and I think this is a lot nicer than what we did on React Router, by the way. So React Router is so awkward to do the protected routes. It's so much easier with this code.
Add in the middleware and connects. If you want to add in a group of browse, you can put our middleware login middleware in here. You can say login, then comma. So it will protect the whole every browse that follow after users. Okay. Cool. Right. I think that's enough. I'm gonna leave it here. And then we have done with protected browse somehow. If you look at the code, it's very easy now, but in the future you will have like a bunch of nested middleware. It will get more confused afterward. But right, the last thing is a third-party middleware. They can be used anywhere inside our code in any level, depending on its functionalities. For example, if you want to log out the request, every request, you can put it in the application level. If you want to log out request on a specific route, you can put it on a router level middleware, router level on a router. Also, if you want to do something, if you want to do inside, for example, a model which you haven't done yet, so I'm not gonna mention it. All right. Today in lab we will use Motor, and Motor is such a library, and we can use it as a middleware. Basically, we will handle the idea of Motor here in this lab is that we will receive a request from a client, right, from the browser, and that request will have a file in it. Browser will send a file to our server, and our server, upon receiving that request, we will look at the file and we will handle the file. Like for example, we will save that image or that file to our computer or our server, and then we return the information that we already saved to the next stack, for example, for the next function, so that that function can show the user, okay, here's the information that the image you already uploaded, or we can do some additional step, depend on your logic, depend on what you want to do. So basically, it's just a middleware. We'll handle the upload for you. For example, you can define where you want to save it, which name you want to save it, and do you want to resize it before you save it, or something like that. This is very useful using middleware. Right. And that's it for theory. The middleware theory is very simple, I would say, but the application is hard somehow. Okay, do you have any questions? to change the function, is it enough just to put them in one common function and call next? To change function is enough to put them in one common function and call next. It's still very hard to understand, but yeah, for example, in a chain like this, if you look at the picture, these functions are like in the video, right? It's identical. Each of them will do different things, but we can chain them together by using next. For example, this job is like to pass the bucket like this, and when it's finished, you can connect. The other guy has maybe the same functionality, but it's another identity. It will take the bucket, receive an argument. For example, request object. Inside the request object, you have for some request object. Just think of it, it's like a bucket. Inside a bucket, there could be water or not. It depends on the guy before it. If he like use all the water, then there's nothing inside your request object, right? If he like delete everything, if he still have water, so your request object still have the water in there, so you can continue to pass it in to the guy behind. So basically, you have all the authority to use the water to yourself. You can keep it. It's called responsibility. You can keep it and pass it to the next guy, or you can like just delete everything. So, okay. How do we specify which function we do go next, and we have it's logic, Joris. We first thing we need to understand, and we need to have a set of goal on what the function does, right? Every function has its purpose. This guy, his job is to pass the bucket only. So we should not allow him to use all the water. We should only ask him to pass the bucket. That's it. So how do I make another function? An example then. Charles, can you think of any example? All right. Okay.
You mean like of
So
example
how
of what?
specify which function will go next if we have multiple functions?
Yeah, so it's like, I think if I understand correctly, it's the order that you call use in. So if you look at like the app.js, whatever goes, every time you call .use, it just adds another link to the chain. So here, the first thing that's called logger, and when logger calls next, it'll express that JSON will go, and the next we'll call express a URL encoded, and so on and so forth. So you don't actually, but the whole point of middleware is you shouldn't really, I mean, it depends on how you architect it, but if you make it in such a way that you need to know exactly what function to call next, you might not be writing your middleware in a good way. Imagine if like chain 1 depended on chain 3, like, or needed some exact order. Something's probably wrong with the way you're architecting the software. So you usually can want them to be independent, but sometimes they're dependencies.
It's very hard to make it totally independent. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like here we're not really independent. Like, so we call JSON first, for example, just in case some JSON response comes in, we can parse it. And then future middlewares will probably assume that there's some JSON available. So they'll depend on that chain.
So if I
but
put,
it's not really about code.
If I put these two below the router, it will not work. So, okay, this is an example right there to answer your question, Joris. So we need to do these two things. We need to pass the JSON file, or we need to pass the URL before our router receives those. So if you put it below the router, it will not work. So we have to put it above, as well as a cookie here. So yeah, it's so hard to explain. It's anything in just today one. Just you will know if you run into problems, and I will tell you the reason, the error, and then by time you have experience. Okay. Anything? Any question? Side question: in current location, why did you make the function in my stream instead of in details? All right. The answer is the window object only runs on browser, right? So we have two kinds of JavaScript. I already said in day one, in the Monday. You have in browser JavaScript and server-side JavaScript. Windows is something that only runs on the browser. If we put it in the utils folder, which means we want kind of like we want to run in the server side, it will not work because server doesn't have that kind of window, something window thingy, right?
So basically what we're doing is right now the server runs JavaScript and generates a page. So all this app.u stuff, all this like handlebar stuff, that's all happening in Node.js land. But before the navigator that stuff, we want that to run in the browser. So the server's not executing that code. Yeah, so what we're doing is just like we did in week 2, maybe not week 1, week 2 and week 3, we're doing like the script source equals blah, 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 JavaScript.js in the browser. So here what we're doing is actually in Node.js, we're sending just a static JavaScript file that the browser will load and then execute, not the server. So everything that's in public is just like assets that the client runs. Same like CSS, or same like the browser is the one reading CSS. The browser is the one reading this JavaScript. It's not running in Node.js land.
Is it clear, Win? So basically, we want that my script to be run on the browser, not on our server. And in order to run on the browser, we need to send that file to the browser, and we have to put it inside public, because right here we technically express that every file inside the public can be accessed to user, to client, to browser or something. Okay, good. So the script in my script won't go through the MVC. It somehow it does go through, but it's not executed on our server. It is executed on the browser. And how do we do that? Because inside our index SBS here, it's not here. It's here. Oh, it's not here as well. It's here. Okay. But in here, we say, okay, when you load this SBS file, this HTML, we also send you a script called MyScript, and that script will be run on browser. It's run the computer everywhere. No, it's everywhere, but yeah, it's not only the browser. The MVC just send the file to that to the browser. That's it. It's not executed on the server. Sorry. Any more questions? It could be yesterday or today, on Monday or Tuesday. It doesn't matter, or even today. Yes. Kai, you have a lot of questions after the class every day. Why do you ask it now? So anything that user would interact with, we put in the script in the public. Any script that is supposed to run on browser should be in public folder. Yes. Okay. When? So it's quiet these days. Why is that? I don't know. So I thought the next gonna call the function right after is after executing. Yes, it's called the next function in the stack. For example, if you have a stack like this, you have login 1, for example, and then you have login 2, and then you have login 3, right? I'm gonna disable this one. Okay, if you have login 1, login 3, 2, login 3 inside the chain here, if you call next on the login 1, it will skip to the login 2 function. And inside login 2 function, you call next again, it will skip to login 3. until we reach the end or until we stop the chain like this, right? What? What's what? Right, for example, I'm gonna have a couple of login function here. Okay, this one login 1, this one login 2, this one login 3. Okay, so login 1 call next. That means we are gonna execute login 2. And if login 2 call next, we are gonna execute login 3. Okay, all right, cool. Any questions? Because today lab is very interesting. It's harder than yesterday, I think, because we need to read the documentation. Okay, when login tree finish, it call the function. Yes, yeah, it's called this one. Okay, cool. Right, so today lab we're gonna build something like this. Meme, or you can even deploy to your Heroku. Oh my god, where is it? Meme. Wait, hang on, let me find the link. Where is it? I think I sent it yesterday. Okay, K is called K meme Heroku app. Okay, you can build your app and deploy it to Heroku. It works as well. Yay, meme town. Okay, work the same. You can see all the images here. Oh, one of them is gone, Charles. It's gone. One of them is gone. But whatever is still there. If you like, don't worry. Heroku app will Heroku will like once in a while it will scan your app and it will remove some files called data files that belong to kind of like storage or something. Or you want to store file, it will detect those files and delete it for you. So basically, let's say I want to upload it's so slow here. So let's do it this one. You want to upload a new file. This guy, upload it. Okay, you see a bunch of, oh, who did this? You see a bunch of images here and you can select either one. I think the motor also, the gym, the library that we're going to use also work with GIF, but somehow it doesn't work here. I don't know. I think I need to install some more stuff. But for example, if you pick these shoes here, you can see this is my initial name. Actually, it's not. It's my friend initials. So during quarantine, be like, okay, you can save it. And here's the results. During quarantine, be like, okay, you can actually resize the image and you can add a text on top of it, and you can copy this link and you can share it to other people. Still work. Okay. And we're supposed to do something like this in 2 days, right? Okay, cool. Actually, we do it without actual database and any like user authentication at all. We just use what we already learned, right? Nothing new. And if you have time in week 9 and 10, if you have time and you already learn the database, you also learn how to upload the files to the cloud, for example, and then you can go back and finish perfect this app. I encourage you to perfect this app later. All right. Any questions about what we're going to do today or what we have learned today? Memes like that. Yeah, it's my, and that's the very cool domain name. It's mine. Yeah. This one is very costly, man. This is like you have to pay like 18 million dong per year to maintain it. Right. Any questions? Yeah, 18 million. Just to maintain it every year. Any questions? No? If we have no question, I'm gonna stop this record and the morning lecture, and then we'll let you do some work on the meme by yourself or review the lecture, and then at 1:30 we'll go back and actually I will demo some steps in the lab, right? Cool. Any objections? I'm not going to, okay, objection. No? Right, cool. I'm gonna stop it. See you guys. Bye-bye. Hey, now stop recording.